Hey, hola friends, it's Victoria here from Tree Living Yoga, and you're listening to the Journey to Freedom podcast. This is a series of 10 episodes that I've recorded, sometimes just me, sometimes with someone else, so that we can exchange ideas and see how we're feeling out this wonderful book, Remembering Freedom by Randall Simpson. This book accompanies trainings and retreats, and it's an offering to women, offering them a pathway home to themselves. This book resonated with me so deeply that I found a way to connect and cherish my woman more than I knew was possible. I continue to find new and unfolding things in this book, and I always have it with me. Caitlin and Tracy, who sometimes join me on these podcasts, have been using the book to study and guide them on their Reiki journey, and this book forms a big part of that course. So we're delving into it together from old and new perspectives. If this postcard speaks to you and you'd like to know a little bit more, I would love to hear from you. The accompanying book is available from Randall Simpson on lyran.earth, or check out treelivingyoga.com, where my trainings, retreats and other experiences are available. So let's begin and explore this week's woman, wise, offering, mirroring, awakened nature. So this is our final episode of the Remembering Freedom podcast. And I'm so excited, so grateful that today, to round off the episodes that we've had, I've got Randall Simpson with me, the author of the book, and I am really looking forward to just see what she thought of how it's been received and how we've all taken different like development and exploration points from this book, and how we've all just sort of taken it into our hearts and run down different avenues with it. So hey.
Hi. It's so lovely to be connecting with you today, and moving through this exploration that you've been sharing in such a sacred, way of just communicating women's essences, but also their own personal journeys through something that I wrote for myself, actually, many years ago, and just to see how that's translating in their lives and hear how they have received it has been so touching, so touching. So thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. I was always really, I suppose, nervous, for want of a better word, of feeling like your words for you in your book, and then me interpreting it in my own way of how I felt it, but then sharing it with someone else, like with actually all the people that have been on the podcast have just had it through me and not met you.
Yes.
And Kerry in particular hasn't been on any training, but I feel that she took things from the book that were so amazing, especially for somebody who's just coming to it like raw, if you know, not from like a yogic training or anything perspective, just reading it and feeling it, and it really touching her soul and helping her see different things. And it's amazing how some of those questions can open up this window and this door inside of you, and you wouldn't imagine this little book, and it's not a thick book, this book's only little. It's like maybe, how many pages is it?
Well, I think because it's evolved over time, and that's what's the beautiful thing, like the way that you're saying you were nervous, to think that you're sharing it from your perspective. That's actually the art form that the book has been written in, and the fact that it has continued to do that in the way people have even interpreted it is absolutely 100% like it's like a celebration of the way in which I wrote it, because it was never a fixed book from the start. It was just literally translating the inner communications that was coming through to support me in my journey at the time. And then it was only just recently, so I think I made the first publication in 2018, and so now we're in 2022, it's only just recently told me there is no evolvement. This is it. This is fulfilled. Okay. So I think we're up to, it's like, maybe 100 and something pages, which originally I think it was only 60.
So I've got the original hardback one.
Yeah.
And I noticed there's extra bits in, because I lent Kerry the hardback one before I had enough of the other one to like sell her. And then she was saying to me, "Oh, you've mentioned this, but it's not in that one." But because I've had the softback one, I haven't gone back into it. But that's amazing.
Yeah, and I feel like that actually, you know, is such a symbolism of the nature of the book and how that it literally moves through you, and it feels like every time you pick it up, even me now, who, you know, I wrote it, I'll pick it up and the way in which something will land for me in this moment compared to, I look back at writings, you know, from years ago and how it will land, like how it landed then, is very, very different. It's like it moves with you and grows with you, but in some way, shape or form, it's actually supporting you to do that in a wisdom-based experience, you know, for yourself through your own body and your own life. So to listen to your podcast over the last 9 episodes has just been so refreshing, because I was like, wow, they receive that from those like writings or teachings, you know, or practices. Like it just continues to evolve, and it's like the book is living on in other women. And you know, the whole reasoning for Remembering Freedom was to come and, you know, feel home in your woman beauty, and how that isn't a fixed state. Like we look at nature, she's not fixed. She constantly shifts and changes, and so no, I love it.
And that, you know, saying about your woman, whatever that woman is as well, I find that it's working for people like that are 20, 21 and 46, 66.
Yes.
So whether you're perimenopausal, menopausal, just coming into like finding your woman, there's something in there for everybody. And the language that it's written in, I think is really important, because it gives you the space to interpret it, and it's not giving you like, this is the instruction, it's giving you an invitation to feel and think. And which is why everybody's taking it in such a different way and really feeling it. And I love that one of the like memorable things was kind of like Caitlin saying about how just from like being attentive to her and her menstrual cycle, that she'd gone from pain to pain free in.
And it's miraculous to hear that. And, you know, because like I said, I wrote this book for me in relation to actually, like helping to support my own menstrual cycle and my healing, you know, to do with my own, you know, body and ovaries and kidneys. And, you know, there's a few different particular points that I actually touch upon in the book that was for my own journey. But did I ever know that would actually, you know, work on someone else? I would never, I would believe it, absolutely, but it's like the fact that it is just still so, you know, I guess awe-inspiring to me too, because it just goes to show that, you know, because a lot of the time we get stuck in thinking, oh, well, that helps someone, so it's definitely going to help me. And I never wanted to come across that this is the be-all and end-all. And because it was never the be-all and end-all for my own journey, it was a constant evolving, unfolding that literally had to happen through my very own body and in my own unique way. So the way in which I wrote the book is like I'm talking, because it's like how my inner talk was actually happening, rather than dictating this is how it should happen.
Did it unfold for you in the way that you wrote it? Because just as you were talking, it came to me that like Kerry, who's not done a training, was really focused on the beginning of the book.
Yes.
You know, and how that was laid out.
Yes.
And me personally, I feel like I dwell in the middle of the book.
Yeah.
And then other people have kind of spent more time at the back of
the
book.
returning and like using the journaling. So the way that the chapters are laid out is 100% the way in which I move through that evolvement. Like, you know, sometimes I would be in the beginning stage and you know, the maybe some ideas or some I guess messages or downloads about the return section would come through, but I never would be able to piece it together. It was definitely a threading and a layering, and that's why I feel as though I only got the clear communication from the book that this is the completion of it in this final form. Because I just birthed, you know, my second child. He's 16 months now, but it was a ceremonial closing of that, I guess, gateway, you know, to understanding my own woman and how in which, you know, I can home in my womanly beauty in not only a form as a maiden, you know, not having children, but also as I was moving through becoming a mother to now really owning myself as a mother, being, you know, a mother to now two. And I felt like I'm solidified in a lot more than I was when I first published the book. It definitely evolves as I've evolved.
So do you feel like some of those teachings and practices are with you now effortlessly all the time?
Yes. So I wouldn't even mention them as like to myself as separate practices or techniques. Like I wouldn't have to even put aside time to do. They're just naturally happening, which actually got me into the frame of mind to feel comfortable enough to birth my latest book, which is called Body Poetry, because that's how it feels now. It feels like body poetry. Whereas, like, you know, when you start to learn to drive a car and you shift stick, you know, and it's like your gears, and it's, you know, at the start it was a bit like that, and I was learning my way, and really just understanding that there's beauty in that too. It doesn't have to be perfect. It might feel start-stoppy. It might feel you're connected and disconnected. Like, that is gorgeous just as much as, you know, when it is flowing and in a way of life that you wouldn't be able to maybe identify as X, Y, Z or departmentalized, but I feel like that's where we want to find ourselves, in the embodiment of something. So
it's so interesting you say about the stick shift, because that's definitely how I felt, but it's so long ago, since 2018, having that book and like reading it and going, okay, right, I'm just gonna go with it and pick bits up. And now there's all these parts that like, because the people that I spend time with are also have a season and have a moon site and have practices in their yin and yang and are feeling into different moon ceremonies and things like that. It's part of my community's way of life, which is so beautiful that it starts to move and feel more effortless.
Yes, and it just feels more natural. And it's amazing how a language that when you first pick it up, like I remember when Daniel, my partner, was editing it and he was like, oh heavens, like, you know, because he was like, you know, because of the way that I wanted to write, because he was like, oh, you know, to grammatically, you know, translate things.
Fun
it was so funny. I was like, yeah, but Daniel, like, no, it's got to sound like this. I know that's not a normal way to write something, but this is how it needs to be. And I know it sounds foreign at this particular time. And back in 2018, even with the first women that actually experienced it as a retreat form to launch the book, I even remember being like, it's okay if this feels foreign. It's okay if this feels like a completely different language, because if it's the language that is going to align for you to support you in a gentle way of you coming home to your own inner beauty and understanding your womanly body and being in this way, it will soon make sense, because it will strike a remembering, and the memory will just come back, and then it'll be like, oh, this is my language, this does feel natural to me, but it may take some time, because like I said, it did for me too. It's like I had to remember what I already knew in my body and what was already there, and it's just an amazing experiential journey. I feel like that's how the book's written, and I just love then seeing how others are literally living this journey, through themselves, with a supportive guide of the book. Because just like you were talking about moon sites and seasons, and understanding your womanly cycle from this perspective, and just your nature of how in which way you cycle through life with the days, the cosmic days, of the meanings of the different planetary positions and things like that. I really want to make it very clear that they too are not fixed. I feel like so many people could then, get attached to, well, my season should look like this, or this day is Venus, so it should go like this. But it's like coming back to the essence of the way in which the book was written was, this was my experience, this is inviting you to find yours, and we all have our own body timing.
And that's one of things that I find really challenging in offering the book, is part of the training. Not so much when it's a book and it's somebody that I'm working with and we're working through their own journey.
Yes.
They really receive it in that way, because we're just the two of us. I can communicate that, you can absorb this, use it as stimulus for what you're feeling, and then run with it from there, and you interpret it. But then when it becomes more of a group environment, the group seem to have that attachment to, okay, so it should feel like this, and I'm not feeling like this on this day. So that's definitely been but my challenge to sort of give people that freedom to get over it. But I think when they spend enough time with it on their own, because it is your own journey. That's
Absolutely.
where I was going with that.
And I think that is because it's like something happens with our minds, when we put ourselves in a course setting, we naturally we have a little programming in our mind that's okay, we're receiving information because we want to learn something, which is totally true. But the way in which the book's written is not information. It's natural intelligence, and it's wisdom-based offerings that are alive. So we can't intellectualize it. And I think so. When we're on a training, it's a little bit harder to shift into the mode of receiving, like what you're saying.
Intellectual, a setting, aren't you?
That's
we're
right.
in a course, we're learning, we're taking notes.
Yeah, and the way that I wrote the book was in receivership. So I was in receivership of my own body and my own journey, and it was like me as a observing natural therapist of myself, and communicating with my inner compass and guidance, and then putting that down in terms of writing and communication, so I didn't forget actually to help my mind, because the mind wants to always intellectualize. So that was my process. So that's why it actually works better in that therapeutic way, because that's how it was written, and in that receivership way. So, and maybe just like we were talking about, the stick shift and the clunkiness, eventually, as, the way in which human beings understand courses and trainings, return to a more remembering space of that ancestral wisdom, and sharing and coming into the place of how our ancestors used to do this, and come together and still learn, but learn from a natural intelligent place and a receivership in a spiritual way, rather than just a course-based information intellectualizing mind-based experience,
and sharing other people's experiences from that, because how we can learn like even on the last teacher, and how you can learn from how somebody is in receiving and
Yeah.
how they're receiving it
Yes.
can change your perception and open it up, instead of it being this fixed way of everybody has to see a light, or everyone has to feel this way, and everyone has to get this vibration.
Yeah.
And by doing, and that's so beautiful to be able to get people to go, we're all teaching each other
100%, and it's like
receiving.
we're all literally like it's exactly why, you know, I wrote the book, to understand that you know, what the pillars of beauty and what that actually you know, enables us as a woman to home from the inside out, that it needs to be uniquely our pillar, our temple of expression of what our beauty thread is, you know, through our cellular makeup, because that's actually what makes everything so wonderful and so beautiful in nature. Is nothing is the same. Like, so why would, you know, and I feel like that's where a lot of distortion has happened with how women feel beautiful, you know, how women are perceiving what beauty is, and how, you know, even men are receiving, you know, what beauty should be in a woman, or vice versa, because there's beauty in a man too. Yeah. And it's like this whole fixation on a style, or a fashion sense, or, you know, and they're all wonderful things because they are expressions, you know, of beauty, but that's the expression of the person that's actually released that. So you too have your own expression, and I feel like let's bring them out. Like, let's not be shy enough to actually be ourselves and see the beauty, the love, the nature, and actually the power in that.
And in that book, through working with different people, we've had, like, Kerry is brought art out. So her expression has been painting and drawing, and with Caitlin it's been dance. And she's been dancing and sharing and moving around. And with Tracy it's been sounds. So Tracy really gravitated towards the nurturing rites and the womb sounds, and all of the sounds. So I can, because we share a space to live in, I can hear Tracy making the sounds regularly. But it's helped her just unlock
so
something.
much. And that is, it's like the book was written to unlock, and also, you know, to allow clarity to find its way to you, that speaks to your nature. And I feel as though you know, that's where maybe that formation and that solidification of Remembering Freedom, you know, being in its final publication now, which gave way to the space to, like I said, birth the book Body Poetry, because it actually is moving into, you know your voice of nature. Like, it's like, once we remember, and we start to remember, and we can remember our process, then we're able to know. But what is amazing is knowing is not fixed. Like, just like the sun, you know, always, you know, comes up, goes down, or, you know, the earth is rotating and the sun's staying there. But that whole understanding, the consistency and the constant state of how the sun is, which is, you know, that the beauty of that masculine energy, but that's actually not how, like, our knowing works, and our wisdom, that we can be in a constant state of knowing, but that doesn't mean what we know today is the same as what we know tomorrow.
And it's so beautiful.
It's gorgeous.
So would you say then that body poetry, would you have to feel out Remembering Freedom before? Is it like the next stage? Do you know what I mean? Would you be a bit lost if you went straight into body poetry, or could it be standalone?
Funnily, that, like you say that, because like I said, I published Remembering Freedom in 2018, but body poetry was written like back in 2016.
Oh, wow.
But I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't
Okay.
have the knowing. I didn't have the awareness. It just came through, and I was like, whoa, what, like, huh? So it's like remembering freedom. It's like I had to backtrack a bit.
Okay.
And that's how my process is. Some people process and move forwards and find a step-by-step forwards. I get something comes through complete, and then I have to break it down to understand it. So the way in which I've written body poetry is I've picked out particular things from Remembering Freedom that I've placed at the front of body poetry if you didn't have Remembering Freedom as a book.
Oh, great.
Yeah. So it can be a standalone. You don't need to have read Remembering Freedom. But I always, I think there's such a beauty in the womanly collection of the books that I have actually done the 3. The way that they even sit now, because body poetry is so thick. Body poetry is like 600 and something pages. And Inda Body and Remembering Freedom, I like the bookends of it. And I feel like the body poetry actually is the inner, the essence. And Remembering Freedom, helps us to move through the process on an inward experience and to draw that outwardly, whereas Inda Body is an outward experience that gets us to move inwardly. And sometimes we might be one more than the other. We might actually be more external, so we might learn from our environment on the outside and then move in. But some people might be more learning from the inner environment and move out. And so I feel like that would be my recommendation of where to start out of Inda Body or Remembering Freedom. But the body poetry brings it all together because it stabilizes the two, and it's the embodiment of both.
So do you have bits of Inda Body in body poetry?
No.
Because Inda Body I've used standalone with clients as well. And it's been amazing, especially for people. Inda Body, if you haven't come across it, is a journaling process, but not journaling. It's questions to ask yourself to help you move through this
it's like
and evolution, and with practices of each day for 28 days, and it's amazingly transformational and so simple.
Yes, and I think the only maybe like similarity or maybe draw point that was from Inda Body that would be in body poetry is how Inda Body allowed you, to move through your own self-therapy and establish, I guess, your own life principle, soul principle connection, to live that sacred, way of being on a daily basis. That comes through body poetry in the how you then communicate that. It's like the next step to that.
Wow,
yeah,
I'm so excited.
And like using directional ways of the earth, like in terms of the elements, and it's like even moving more away from practices again. It's like it's a beautiful one because I'm using it right now, and I feel as though it is allowing more inner expression, but more threading of and to empower you to embody. So like I was saying, you're moving away from thinking you have to do 2 hours of a practice, or I'm going to do this moonlight practice now and then this ceremony now because it's this season. It's a little less stagnant, and it's drawing us back into really understanding our own body time and what we need, and being able to hear our voice when it says it, regardless of what season it is outside of us. So it's like the stepping stones are Inda Body and Remembering Freedom, and then it's like asking you, now be your own earth. Show me what you're working with, like in terms of be your own body poetry, because that's how I see this planet. Is like it's amazing how it's like gorgeous how it all connects and communicates. So it really asks of you to be okay to lead yourself, but also bring it all together.
Yeah. Oh, they're such a wonderful collection, and it's such a, I can't tell you how grateful I am for having received the ones that I have and journeyed with them, and it's such a blessing to be able to share them with people and see people love them so much and get so much from it. So I feel like if you're a woman, or even like a man, I'm trying to understand a woman, because there's been other guys that I've had come through that have just been, although it seems quite wacky, for want of a better word, for their interpretation, it's helped them understand their other half and have better relationships with their other half, which is just amazing as well, even as a couples thing that they could go through together.
100%. Like, I would always say, to Daniel, we would talk about this. I was like, it's one thing that women are coming back to the wisdom-based knowing of their own cycles and honouring, that they're bleeding, and honouring how their creational cycle is moving through their body, and how that actually can work every month to not just reproduce a child, but to actually reproduce something that they are loving in their life, or birth something, new. But if we are not then bringing that into the man's sphere, it's never going to find sovereignty. And to welcome him into the ceremonial, blood ceremonies, and if you're not feeling comfortable yet to do that, just week to week of where you are, and have conversations and explaining like how that moves through the body, and how that affects, your mind on a natural state each month. Because how I'm sure men are like, oh God, she's off on she's having a day, or they know when we're off, or something's not quite right, or they might relate it to being more emotional, but this way it's actually understanding how then they can support you to stay in remembering. Because I feel like women, we need that any support there is going to help us, because so often we forget. Women just forget, because we are cyclic, and what's beautiful is we don't hold on, which is why we actually get a release every month, if it's not every month on a physical level, on a bleed, it's still every month. We still can actually release, even if it's mentally, emotionally, energetically, or spiritually. It doesn't have to be just on that biological, level, but to use that to our advantage, to
feel into your power of when you're creative, when you're releasing, when you're letting go. And whether you're a woman that's single, or whether you've got a man in your life, they can 100%. Either be supporting you and flowing with you, or you can be just in your power, feeling it and embracing it and harnessing it.
Yes.
So it's for everyone.
It
basically.
Is for and it is. And like, my daughter, she's nearly 4, Amazon now, and like, she was in my belly when we published this, and I find it's like she said, it's time, Mum, it's ready. And I feel like a lot of the sharings and the teachings that really came through Remembering Freedom are from Amazon, and I can see that now, because her ability to just know, I'm not sure if she'll ever have to read the book, but she really loves doing it with me. And she loves to come out, and we do our ceremony with the blood and the blessings, for just different things, and how we're feeling, and knowing if she has energy somewhere, maybe we can release that out of that body site at the moment, and just to help us stay as home feeling as possible, and she's 4, not even, and it's just so sacred to know that she can walk this earth in her beauty and maybe not have to remember it. Wouldn't that be marvelous if the little, the girls and the little boys on this planet, I'm a mum of a boy now too, and the things that I've been able to intertwine with Sailor already, and he's only 16 months, and draw him into that process of woman being, and how it's not actually just a female, and what woman being is, because whether you are a boy or a girl, man or woman, you have moved through the womb and been birthed on this planet. So when I, talk about woman, I'm not talking about a sex. And you get that in the book when you get to experience the acronym and things like that and what it means. But yeah, it's just amazing to how it creates a sense of belonging and a home that hopefully they don't need to unlearn to relearn again. And I just think the healing in that is just powerful, because imagine a planet that's home in their beauty and knowing their voice of nature, like, please.
And if those ladies that have picked it up have daughters or like any children, and they experience it with them, and they can do it in the same way that you and Amazon are doing it, and having ceremonies.
It's just really fun, and it shifts the energy. Like, we could be having a blowout of a day, I like to call it, and it's not graceful at all, and like everyone's up and down, there's tantrum over bananas or whatever it may be, and it's like a way in which we can come back to ourselves, to do a body practice, or it might be a ceremony, with collecting, foraging through nature, and it's just a really great tool to come back to and reset the energy tone, and that's where the remembering remedies, like those recipes, are a really quick guide to go to. And sometimes they even have pulled pages out of the book and stuck on the fridge, that I feel like, we actually really need to focus on this right now. Like, it's like the book's called me back to focus on this particular page. It's wonderful how the whole family can get involved in this, and in actually doing so, you're coming home to yourself even more. But how beautiful it is that you can do it on your own, because like I said, this book was written in my maiden. I was on my own, in my own journey, and I feel so grateful for that experience and how that has communicated, through and being translated through Remembering Freedom, because it was my journey up to getting pregnant, and through different fertility, mindsets and understandings, and how I was able to actually even heal that path to even become ready to even come together and get a partner. I was single, for 9 years. That journey of Remembering Freedom really was a 9-year process for me, to really come back to and start to see it. And that's why it only was ready for publishing once I conceived Amazon. It's like I felt it in the January, that it was time, and I did my first draft, and that was actually when Dan and I really felt we were ready to open the gates come the February, for the possibility of becoming a family. And it happened instantly, so it was like, wow, okay. But so did the book. Like, I actually, once I received my first draft back, I was like, I'm not going to edit this. This is how it is. This is actually a part of the issue that I'm hoping to inspire others to resolve. Is you're not broken, you're not needing to edit yourself, and you can communicate your essence just the way it is, even if it doesn't make sense, even if it isn't grammatically correct, even if it doesn't come across and someone doesn't receive it the way you intend it to happen. It just is, and that's love. That's beauty in its raw form.
And we've had someone go through that book and that training and get pregnant as well.
Yeah,
from
right. I love it. I love it.
It's really like being picked up by people in all different phases.
Yeah,
of and taking it in different ways.
Oh, so amazing. Yeah, well, and who knows where it will, continue on. I would love, to, even come back to, someone that's revisiting the book, after a few years, and have gone through these podcasts, and just to see how it's translating. Because like I said, even the way the book's written, I still come back to it, and it still lands differently, or it awakens me to a different layer of my awareness again. And yeah, I feel grateful for it, and I always, feel blessed that it chose me to articulate it in the way and allow its creational essence, to find form in such a beautiful keepsake that can be a part of the home but can travel with you, because for so long I didn't have a permanent home, so the fact that it can travel with you is great too.
Oh, thank you, Raz.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's so nice to be in the same space
I know,
as well,
and
geographically.
Here we are in Bali, and this is where the book found its first. This is where people received it first, was in Bali. The first receivers of the book were in Bali. So I feel like it's a ceremonial experience in itself, and a completion and honouring. So thank you for bringing this together. I just really want to honour you, Victoria, in choosing to create a podcast to actually continue the translation and communication of the book, because like I said, the way the book's written may not reach a certain person, but I feel like the way you've then been able to share it in audio form has allowed it to reach more people and has welcomed them in. So to anyone out there who has read the book and things have come to you in ways in which you can share it, please do continue the involvement, because it is allowing the healing of what this book it has its own intention, and it's love made visible of its dharma in helping people to remember their freedom in various ways. So don't constrict it, and go for it,
tell us how it goes.
Yes, please share.
Oh, thank you.